artificial intelligence, you will not learn all the different uh, models and different areas of AI. I think that's almost impossible. Why? Because we have so many models that we can learn. We can use AI for agents. We can use for text and language processing. We can use computer speech. We can process images, videos. We can extract document information like invoices, and we can also use machine learning. We can train models with machine learning. So I think it's really complicated to catch up with all these models. But I think the most important thing is that you understand what area of AI does what, okay? Because with that, you will be able to understand, hey, I need to process invoices and I need to pull the data and insert that information into a SQL server. So I guess I need to go to information extraction model and use one of those, and then I can create a solution. But on the other hand, if I want to process images with OCR and pull data from text from those images, identify objects in the image, then probably I need to use a computer vision model, right? I need an agent, then I can use an LLM, or I can use I don't know, probably I can use embeddings. So it's important that we have an understanding what every model does, right? So that's my first recommendation. Don't try to learn every single model or every single area in AI. Work in those areas that you are interested in. Okay, start with those, right? And that's what we will do today, right? First, we will start with Gen AI, and we will be able to create agents, and we will be able to use uh, different models to work with this generative AI. We can use LLMs, small language models, large language models, and we will use Azure Foundry to start creating those or deploying those models, right? We will start with that part. Okay, so how do we prepare to start working with AI solutions on Azure? A few months ago, or probably a year ago, we had to create every single model or every single service in the Azure AI portal. So, I mean, in the Azure portal. So you had to go to Azure and then create the models, and you had to create every single service individually, right? But then we have Azure AI Foundry, and that's where we can start working from a project perspective, right? You create a project and then you start deploying models inside this project, and then you can use different models and you can use different knowledge, different tools inside your project. I think that's a good change for us, and it will be easier for us to start working with AI. Okay, so like I said, a few months back, we work directly with every single service individually, but now we can create projects. Now, Foundry is basically this unified platform where we can start creating apps and agents, okay? We can create the different resources, we can create the project, and inside this Foundry, we can start deploying models, we can create agents, we can add different tools for our agents or applications, we can add knowledge, right? Like if you have different PDF files and you want your agent to search inside these PDF files, then you can use this kind of knowledge, this PDF. But also, probably you could have a higher volume of different PDF files. Then you can use Azure AI Search, or you can have a SQL Server database and then create an Azure AI Search service connected to the database. Uh, Yeah, I speak Spanish. So, for those asking, thanks. So you can create these founded projects and start adding or deploying the different models, right? I will show you how to create this model or these projects, and then we will be able to use the endpoints to connect our agents or applications to these models that we deploy or to this project, right? And we have different tools like language tools, speech tools. You can create agents that you can integrate speech services, or you can use translators. Like if the user is writing in Spanish, you can translate to English, or you can search inside documents. You can process invoices and extract information like, hey, I want to use the supplier name, the address. I want to get the list of items in the invoice, the prices. You can use document intelligence to do that. Okay. The important thing here is that we know which model uh, is helping us in different tasks. Okay. And I will show you how to use content understanding. That's another service that we can integrate here, right? So let's see how it works. First, before this, we definitely need our project. So what we need to do here is we need to go to, and probably you need to go to aiazure.com. And when you log in with your Azure account, then you can start creating your project. I already have different projects, but let's create a new project here. So you have aiazure.com, you log in with your Azure account, and then you can start creating the new project. When you create a new project, you need to set the name here, and then you can use any name. Let's say AI 103 project, uh, let's say 50527. Okay, so you create the project name. You can deploy this project to any region. Use the one that is closer to your location, or uh, where you will be consuming this specific service or project. So you have your subscription. You can create a resource group to monitor uh, the resources, and then you create the project. It will take a few minutes, obviously, to deploy the project, and then we can start using different models. But obviously, we need to understand what model is better for our what we need to do, and then you look for that specific model. I will show you how to deploy that a model inside your project. Okay, so here you can click let's go. As you can see here at the top, I have my previous project, and this is the one that I just created, and I can start discovering, or I can start looking for those specific models, right? I will show you how to deploy a model. Okay, so what if I have different file types? I want to use RAG-based application. Well, what you can do is you can create different AI search indexes. So you can create an index, say, for PDF, and then you can create another index for a SQL Server database, or then you can bring these Azure AI services in your agent or application, and then when you send a prompt to that agent, it will look in the different index that are available. So that's not a problem. You can do that definitely, and you can create that, right? Yeah, exactly. Earlier in Azure, you had to create all these servers individually. So as developer, you had to go to Azure Search here to the portal, and then hey, I want to use document intelligence, and then create that model, and then you could start using it. Now it's easier if you do that in Azure AI Foundry. In Foundry, it's basically like a project where you have different services. As you can see here, I have my project, but I don't have anything deployed yet. I can go here to build, to discover, sorry, I can here at the top. And then I can look for the models, right? Like, hey, I want to use GPT 4.1, right? And I click here and I can take a look, I can compare different models, and then you can deploy this model here, right? I think you can create a trial version. I think you get $200 to start, and then you can use it, right? So you don't have to pay to start with this, right? So once you create this model, you can set the default settings. I think it's easier. We don't have to change anything now. And then when the model is deployed, you can start playing with it. You can try it. You can test it. So you can change I have the model here, the GPT 4.1 model. You can change the instructions, and then you can start sending prompts to this. So tell me about the Elisa chat. I think this was a project that was created a few years ago. Yeah, you can take a look at the different models, and then you can compare the models, right? You can have this model. So I send the prompt. I have this information. I get, okay, so this was a project that was created in the mid 60s by the MIT, and all the history of this model, right? Now, if you want to create an agent, you can create an agent just like here, save as agent, and that's an easy way to start in a few minutes, and then you can use this agent probably in your 365 in your tenant, and that will be uh, uh, an agent that was created like in 5 minutes, right? And I think this is really easy to start, right? I can create my project, I can deploy a model, and I can start using it. So say you want to upload like an image. I think I have here a mango picture, and then I can say, hey, what recipes be created with this fruit, right? Because basically what we did here is we deployed an LLM that is able to process information. We uploaded basically a picture and say, hey, tell me what we can do with this specific fruit that was a mango, right? So it's really, really easy to get started. Basically, what you need is just create a project in Azure AI Foundry, deploy a model, and then you can start using the playground to start testing what you just deployed, right? And then you can start working with the different tools and SDKs, okay? If you're a developer, probably you are a C# developer, you are Python developer, then you have different SDKs, right? So you don't have to create all the code manually like HTTP requests, because you already have different SDKs that you can integrate in your program and start sending requests to the model that you created in Azure AI Foundry. So that's basically the idea. And you can use Visual Studio Code, and you can add the AI toolkit extension. And with this extension, you can manage your model and you can deploy models from Visual Studio Code, right? From Visual Studio Code, you can deploy models, you can create different agents, and that's basically what you can do with Visual Studio Code. I will show you different demos created with Python, right? Because it's really easy, because once you have the SDKs, like I said, you don't have to create the code manually. You can just add the SDK, even if you are using Python, if you are using C Sharp, just if that's C Sharp, basically what you need to do is add the Nugget package and that you're ready to go. And you can create different projects like agents, content understanding, translator, language and text analytics. All these can be used inside your programs. Okay, so like I show you, you can explore the model catalog, right? Like here, if I can go back uh, to my Azure AI Foundry project. I have the project. You can go to models, and then here you can see that I already deployed one of the models, right? The GPT 4.1. Okay, and then you can click here on Discover, and in Discover you can look for other models. Like, hey, I want to create images, then you have other models, right? So if you click here, view all models, then you can see, hey, I want to inference task, and I want to analyze images. What are the best models for that specific task, right? Or I can create images, text to image. I want to create an image based on a description, like we usually do in GPT or Copilot. Then you can deploy a model. You look here, and then you have GPT image. You can have Flux 2 Pro. And what you need to do is just go to the Discover page, and then look for the different models depending on what you need. And then you can start creating your applications, right? So, right. So that's when you are ready, just look for the model, just click deploy, and then you can deploy these models with different configurations. You can, if you don't want to configure specific settings, you can just go with this global standard. And then if you don't want to spend, you're just trying, you're just testing, you can use a regional provisioned model, or you can use a developer where you can actually change the settings and change how many tokens you are willing to spend on the different requests. I think that's important. Like I said, you can create your own account for free. Just you get $200, and then you can start testing these models. Okay, so that's what I show you how to prepare. Just if you want to add another model, just look for this. Sometimes some models are not available in specific regions. Okay, so if you created a project in East US and you're trying to create like a model to create images, when you click here and try to deploy the model, you will get an error, right? Sometimes, but in this case, it was created. So if I want to create an image, create a robot eating at a restaurant, eating pasta. So when you send the prompt, basically this specific model, Flux 2 Pro, will be handling the request. Okay. If I want to create my own application, then this model was deployed, and then I can create the code with Python, and you usually have the demo here, and then you have the SDK, and then you can see, hey, I need to use this endpoint, and I used to send the prompt, set the model, and I can send the width and height of the image, and then you can create an application that will be able to use this model. Okay, so that's basically what you want to do. You want to play with the models and give it a try. Just try it. Say, okay, what does this model does? Oh, this is creating images. This is an LLM. This is basically helping me create different uh, responses to my prompts. Okay, that's what we want to. That's how we want to start deploying a project deploying models, and then with the playground, we can start testing it. That's it. Okay, you don't need anything else to start. Okay. Oh, yeah, RAG is available as a different service, and that service is created specifically in Azure. Okay, RAG. So if you want to use search service, you can create an index, and I will show you that. And then with that index, when you create this agent, you basically set the data source here, like I have an Azure Blob Storage, and then you will be able to upload files there, indexing, and then add this into your model. I will show you how to do that shortly, right? So no, if you want to use C sharp, you can, instead of using obviously the SDKs for Python, you can use the NuGet packages available for C sharp. So they are completely different, but they have the same idea. Okay. Oh, got it. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, it's basically based on the different areas. So if you have East US, you have West, and then you need to take a look and find where that service that you need is available, right? Okay. So yeah. Now, when you want to create, we play with the model using the playground. So we go to uh, Foundry, and then we go to the model, and then we can start sending prompts or uploading images, and it will work, right? Yep, right. That's right. Thanks for that. You need to have different services. Azure AI is one of the services that you can use. You can use vector store embeddings. Actually, we have another session later today about how to use RAG solutions in SQL Server. If you have time, I'll see you there. Okay. Uh, okay, so we want to try the model in the playground, but then we can start creating our own solutions. And now, when you create the project, you have different endpoints. Okay, these endpoints, like here, if I go to the Foundry and I go to my model here, I have different endpoints. Azure OpenAI project endpoint, and then we have the API key. You can use the API key uh, to connect to the model instead of using an enter ID. In my case, for demos, I usually use the API key, but probably in production, I use the enter ID user because it's more secure rather than just adding the API key, right? And we have these endpoints that we will be using in our solution. Like it say, basically, when you have Enter ID, you can install a set of classes, or you can use the API key. And now, when you're creating a chat, you can use either responses or chat completions. Chat completions, you have those two different approaches. Chat completions is good, but the problem is when you are creating an agent, every time you send a prompt, you need to send the history of the messages. And that could be a problem eventually, because when you have a conversation and you start sending prompts and prompts and prompts, you will have an array of messages that eventually will grow, right? But when you're using responses, you don't need to send the array of messages. You only need to send a reference to the last message, and that will keep track of our uh, conversation. Okay, so here I think that is important, and I will show you it works. Okay, and here we have a small snippet of the code where you import the Azure identity, you import the project client, and then you can use the uh, project endpoint to work with this, okay? And on the other hand, you have the OpenAI endpoint. You can send the API key or you can create a token, and then you can start using the Azure OpenAI endpoint. Like I said, it's basically here on the project. So you have the project here, you have the API key, the project endpoint, and then you have the Azure OpenAI endpoint. Pretty much, when you create an agent, it's basically stateless, but you can keep track of the conversation when you are using responses. Okay, when you are using chat completions, you need to send all the messages over and over again, and that could be a problem. I will show you a demo of how it works, right? Yeah, you can use Cosmos or some other database and then start sending those every time the user restart the conversation. Okay, so as you can see here, it's pretty much it's similar. So you send the role, you send the content, and then when you are using responses API, you send the instructions. It's basically the same that you do when you work directly with the model. So if you go here to the models and you go here to GPT-4, then you can change the instructions here, and then you can start sending the prompts, right? And then you can add knowledge, you can add different elements, right? So like I mentioned, when you are using chat completions, every time you send a message, you need to send an array of the previous messages. Okay, so you can create when you send the chat request, you set the model, and here you need to send the array in order to keep the state of the conversation. Otherwise, it will lose all that context, right? But when you are using responses API, all you need to do is you need to send the previous response ID, okay? And that is part of the object that you send, right? So yeah, it's basically, you don't need to send all the previous messages, just the last one. And with that, it will keep track of the conversation, right? So let's take a look. Let's take a look at how it works. So I have this chat application. Like I said, you can use Python or C Sharp, and then you can import the OpenAI classes or the different SDKs. Then you can use the credentials, the Azure Identity SDK, and then here we can configure in the environment, we can configure the OpenAI endpoint, the model that we will be using, and then we will be using the OpenAI key, okay? So we have all these settings. Don't forget, if you are showing the OpenAI key, just regenerate after you show this to someone else. In my case, I'm gonna delete this project obviously later today, but basically it's what you want to configure in your environment file. And then if we take a look at the code, the chat app, right? Yeah, the context, it's important that you define how you want to keep track of the context, okay? Like you said, you could use Cosmos DB to keep track of the history, or you can, I don't know, you can use any other store to record or to save those conversations. Otherwise, you can restart the conversation over and over again, right? Now, when you have this model, we get all the different parameters or different settings to connect. We create the credential. We create an OpenAI client where we use the OpenAI endpoint and the API key. Okay, that's the client we need to create, right? And then we can start sending like, hey, enter a prompt, and then we, based on the, if they type quit, the program will be finished. And then otherwise it will start asking the question. And then the first part is using completions, okay? Like we are not using the context here. Actually, here we are only sending the row, and then we are sending the instructions. We are not sending any other than the message that user sent, okay? And then after that, we are basically printing the response, okay? So if we run this program here, let me run it. So it's really pretty basic agent. Obviously, we don't have any context. We're not recording these messages. So if I send, run this chat application, okay, okay, I'm not in the right folder. It's easier if I go here, open an integrated terminal, okay, Python chat, okay. So if I say basically, tell me about the Elisa chatbot, it will be using the OpenAI endpoint. It will send the prompt, and then I will get the information. Okay, so basically it's saying, okay, the Elisa was created in the 60s. And then what I can do here is I can ask, hey, how does it compare to LLMs, for instance, right? So if I try that, take a look. So basically I'm saying, hey, first I ask, tell me about Elisa, and it returned the answer, right? But when I try to say, hey, how does it compare to LLMs? It's basically saying, I don't know what it means, right? Because I did not keep track of the conversation. I did not send what was the first question. And that's why it's saying, okay, can you clarify what it means? That's a quick example of an agent that is not keeping track of the context, okay? Let's take a look now at API responses. So I'm gonna comment this, block comment, and then I will go here. And now I'm gonna do something completely different, right? I'm gonna use a variable here. This variable is named last response ID. So I'm switching from completions to chat REST to the REST API. And then what I'm doing here is I'm creating another request, but now I'm using API response. I'm sending the instructions. As you can see, the object is different. I have instructions here. And this is really, really important. The previous response ID, okay? After the first execution of this, I'm recording this in the last response ID. So now it has the context, basically from the previous message. And when I do that, I'm just saving it. And then I'm saying, hey, can you run the application again? And then tell me about the Elisa chatbot, right? With that, it will respond. But then I'm going to ask the same question. How does it compare to LLMs, right? Now it has the context because it has the previous message, and it should give me a correct answer. So it's basically saying, okay, so I have the features and I have the Elisa and I have the LLMs. The Elisa was rule-based. LLMs are deep learning script therapy, general knowledge. Regarding the intelligence, there was no intelligence. And then that's basically because I set the context for this specific conversation. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Yeah, all good? Yeah. I think this what I'm trying to, I mean, I'm not trying to show you how to code, right? Because that's not the idea. What I want is that you uh, understand how the model work, how you can deploy the different models, you can use the different endpoints, and then you can start a conversation with that model. And then we need to understand how the context is kept, and how you can go back and forth between the LLM and your application. I think that's the most important, because the code you can figure out how to create it. I mean, there are a lot of different AI tools that if you ask, hey, can you help me create an agent using Python for GPT 4.1 in Azure AI Foundry, it will give you the code. So don't worry about that. It's more important that we understand the concept, and then we can write. Basically, this ID will exist for more, for yeah, as long as you have the model there, it will keep track of that. If you obviously, if you delete that model and create a new one, then it will start creating again the different IDs. Okay. So okay, so now this is a very, very basic agent, right? Just answer specific questions, okay? And we are using GPT-4 in this case to answer to those questions, right? But what about tools, okay? An agent is I mean, it's useful. It's if it provides information, but it's way better if it can perform different actions, right? So we can create different tools and integrate those into our agent, right? We can work with code interpreter. We can use web search, right? We can use file search. We can call functions, and then we can add all these tools into our agent and make this agent more useful, okay? So it can take action. So for instance, code interpreter. Basically, what you can do is, hey, you are an agent to provide information, use the Python tool to run code for math problems, and then you can send the input, what is the square root of 16, right? And then you can add that tool named code interpreter. And when you start working with this agent, it will automatically understand, okay, if they send a prompt like what is the square root of 16, I have available my code interpreter tool that I can use to return a response. Okay, that is really, really easy. You just add the tool to your request. Okay, now the web search, if you want your agent to be available and be able to go to the web and get information from the web, then you can add the web search tool and it will go ahead and get information from different websites. Like if you are using an agent for trip planning, right? And you want to know what will happen in New York in July, then you can use the web search and it will go and look for that specific information. I will show you an example of this. Yes, you can invoke other agents, right? And I think that is really, really important. And that's a recommendation, actually. When you are working in an organization, you don't want to create huge agents. You need to create specialized agents. Like, hey, I want to create an agent that is basically for HR. okay, to schedule vacations. And then I create that agent, and then I can go to the main agent and say, hey, I have this agent, and then you can describe the agent. You don't have to configure like very technically. You can just configure like, hey, this agent is an HR agent. When someone sends requests about vacation policies and stuff like that, go to that agent, and then the main agent will be able to send information and process the responses, right? So it's not like really complicated to add agents to other agents, but it's basically a tool, right? Okay. Yep, that's the name of the tool, right? Probably because when they release features, they start by creating web search preview. Eventually, they will change that to just web search, right? And I think you have seen this before in other tools, like they release in preview, but sometimes it takes a while to change from preview to generally available, right? Okay, so I will show you how it works. Then you can also add the file search, right? If you have a few files, I mean, be careful because you cannot create vectors. I mean, and my recommendation is if you have probably more than 20, 50 files, then don't use file search. Go ahead and create an Azure AI search service and bring into your agent. But if you have just a few, you can create vectors from your files and then add those vectors into your agent. And like I said, it's basically a tool. So you create with the client, you can create a vector store, add different files like a PDF or many files, and then just add that to your request as a file search tool. Send the vectors, and it will be able to look for that specific information. Yes, you can you can deploy models that are better for batch processing, right? If you go to the Foundry, you will find models that are specific for batch processing, right? Okay, so the function tool, it's pretty much the same. We are talking about tools, okay? When you have a tool, it's either file search, web search, or functions. Okay. So what you're going to do with these tools is you create the code and then you register those functions in your code as tools. And I will show you a demo, for instance, here. So you create the function tools. You have a function named getTime, you set the description, and then you just add the tool, the get time, right? But this code is in a different file. I will show you how to create those specific functions and how you can pull that into your agent, okay? That's another option, creating functions in Python or C# and then adding those as tools. And with that, you can actually do whatever you want. You can pull data from a web service, you can process files, you can do anything you want with those specific tools, okay? Now, let's see an agent that uses different tools, okay? So the first one is really easy, okay? Let's take a look at this, Tools app. Let me show you the code. It's the same. I have my endpoint here, OpenAI, my model. The model will be processing my request. I have my OpenAI key here, and then I have my code here. Okay, so the first thing is obviously we are using different classes, different SDKs, and then we pull the information from our environment file. We get the endpoint, the model, and the OpenAI key. And then we create the OpenAI client based on the OpenAI endpoint and the OpenAI key. Okay. And the first thing we do is we create with the client we create a vector store, okay, named travel brochure, okay, here. And with that, we open a set of files, a PDF files that are in my folder, brochures, that are basically these files. So it's what it's doing is basically it's pulling the files, creating vectors for it so it can perform semantic search based on that information. And then with that, after that, we create the request, okay? The request is basically here. We have the OpenAI client, we create the request, we set the model, that's the GPT 4.1, and then we set the instructions. You're a travel assistant that provides information on travel services from Margie's Travel and all that thing that you configure, right? Basically the instruction for the agent. Now, we send the input text, that basically the prompt that the user typed here, right? We save that. And then the important thing is here, okay? So we created the vector store, and we are sending that vector store along with the file search tool. That's all we need. We created the vector indexes for our files, and then we add this as a file search tool to your agent. And then we add another web search, another tool named web search. We didn't configure anything there. Just add that to your agent. Okay. So if we do that, we run this agent, we just like Python tools app. Okay. Here, what we can do is we can send a request like, hey, what events are happening in New York okay, what events are happening in New York in July, right? Right? It's basically thinking, and we don't have events in our brochures. We don't have anything there. So it's basically using the web search to look for events that are happening in New York in July, okay? And then we're basically saying we're getting this information, okay? July 1 to 8, semi-quincentennial, America's 250th anniversary. And then we have some 4th of July fireworks and events, outdoor and summer festivals. That is coming from the web search tool, okay? However, if I ask what hotels are available through Margie's agency, travel agency, right? In this case, the information is not taken from the web. It's basically from the vectors based on those files, okay? So here it is. Okay, for Margie's Travel offered the following hotel in New York City: the Manhattan Hotel, the Grand Central Hotel, the Park Hotel. And then you have to book your trip to New York, you have visit margiestravel.com, right? Now we are using two different tools. The first one is the file search tool based on a vector files or vector indexes, and the second one is just the web search, right? That's correct. That's correct. We are using RAG and we're using Gen AI. Okay. But like I said, be careful because you need to understand that if you have hundreds of or thousands of files, then this will not work because it will take minutes or hours processing these files. In that case, it's better if you say, hey, I better create an Azure AI search and then use that for my agent. Okay. Okay. So basically, it's AI. When you send the prompt, it will try to search, hey, what do I have in the files? Oh, you have information about the destinations, and then you have uh, the hotels are there. But if you don't find, if it doesn't find there, then it will look in the web, right? I mean, it's basically about obviously AI, and that will be able to create that. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the next short module, and then we can take a break. Okay, because I know it's a lot of information. I'm trying to do this uh, really easy, and as you can see, the demos are not really long lines of code. It's just basic code that we can just understand in a matter of minutes. Okay. Oh, well, basically that decision will be on latency of the information. Okay. For instance, if you have contracts for your customers, for just an example, if you have contracts for your customers, say you are an insurance company, and probably those contracts are changing every year, or probably every 6 months at the most, probably. Then, in that case, probably it's better to use Azure AI Search, because you don't need to start reindexing every day or every couple hours, because you know that the contracts don't change really often. That could be Azure AI Search. But on the other side, if you are looking for exchange rates or events, like in this case, hey, what's happening next week? Then I don't want to be uploading information in a database, because that information is available. Then you can go for a web search tool. Okay. I think that's basically the decision. Is based on what information we want to provide to our agent. But it could be services like Azure AI Search. It could be just five that we did, or you can go to the web. But it's based on that. Okay. Oh, no, that's basically the AI taking the decision, okay? Because when you're basically saying here, hey, you're a assistant that provides information, okay? Answer questions about service offered by Margis Travel using the provided brochures. So these are the instructions, right? Or search the web for general information about destination or current travel advice. That's basically the instructions. Okay. If you want to be more specific, do that. Okay. Probably when they ask you about New York, San Francisco, and others, and then look in the brochures. But if you find that we don't have that specific destination, you can go to the web. It's all about the instructions. Okay, good. So we are talking about the agents, and then we have the LLM here. In this case, we are using GPT 4.1, I think. It's basically deployed in Foundry, and then we set the instructions, and we added the tools. Here we added a web search, and then we also added the file search. File search. That's all we did there. Okay, but you can add more and more and more functions. Actually, you can add another kind of tools. Okay, you can look for different models. I use GPT, but you can use Claude and other. Those are available in Azure Foundry. Even if they are not from Microsoft, those are available, right? Now, why these AIs are useful? Well, because it's an agent working 24/7. You can start creating automation from different tasks, decision making, scalability. You can increase different services or resources. And you have many different use cases like personal productivity sometimes actually, and part of the architecture of agents is to decide which service you want to use, right? And this is interesting because lately, even if I even me as developer, lately I've been delivering Copilot 365 training. Why? Because actually you need to understand where every tool helps, right? Sometimes you don't need to create an agent with Foundry when all you need is schedule meetings, and you already have you are using Outlook, and then you have Copilot 365, right? And that will help you say, hey, I want to schedule uh, a meeting with John and Mary, and I want to know when is the best time for us to meet. Then Copilot 365 will be able to go ahead and look in the calendar of these two other people and say, hey, tomorrow, 3 p.m., the three of you are available. Do you want me to send that meeting? Yeah, go ahead. And so it's really important that you say, hey, if that's personal productivity, do I really need to create an agent with Foundry? I need to create code, or should I just get a license for 365 Copilot and assign to the users, and that's it? And that's perfectly valid, right? You don't need to create code. Okay, it's the reason why we need to understand all the different tools that we have available for agents, right? So you have different use cases. Make sure you decide or you choose the best option, okay? Whether it's actually, uh, if you have heard about Copilot Studio, that's another great choice, because with Copilot Studio, you don't need to create code because it's a low code. Power Platform is a low code platform where you can create agents, you can create applications without writing code. You can just drag and drop, set the configuration, and then you can create an agent, right? And with Power Automate, you can add tools that don't where you don't need to add code. Just drag and drop, connect, set the configuration for every step, right? Copilot 365, with Copilot 365, you can create an agent, right? Where probably you add policies, and the users, instead of calling HR, hey, how many days of vacation I have left, you can create agents when you have a license of Copilot 365. That's another thing, and that's what Microsoft is trying to teach us. Okay, look for the best tool, right? Okay, so what the development workflow looks like is here. You connect to the Foundry project, you create the agent, you configure the agent instructions, you add tools, and then you start testing it. Actually, you can do this directly in Foundry. When you have here, hey, you are an agent that will help create recipes based on different fruits, okay? And then you can add knowledge here directly. The vector files I added, you can upload files here, right? You can upload files, and that's it. And then you can save this as an agent, right? And this agent say, hey, little chef, and that's it. Okay, and then you can create that agent, and you can take this agent into your 365 Copilot and use it, right? That's also possible. As you can see here, when you publish this agent, you can publish this, and this is in preview, but eventually you will be able to publish these agents to Team and Microsoft 365, right? So you can connect agents created in Foundry to your 365 environment, right? Yes, you can train custom models. You can also add machine learning models. You have all these uh, models available, right? And like I said, you have two different approaches. The first one is the easy one. The easiest is go to Foundry, deploy your model, create this agent, and then test it. If you like it, then just publish. Now, if you want to customize it and make it more specialized, then you can go to Visual Studio Code, create the object, and then you can deploy these agents too. Okay. Yeah, you can create an agent to search for jobs. Definitely. Yeah, you can just add instructions. Actually, you could upload a resume and then ask it to uh, look for jobs, right? Yes, you can add MCP servers and then you can basically say uh, use the MCP as an endpoint and then start sending prompts. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you can run some models you can run locally. I mean, I haven't done so, but I know you can. You can download specific models and say, "Hey, I want to run this in my computer," and that's it. Well, in this case, you don't have to export the agent to another machine because remember, at least this agent is stored or is working on an Azure AI Foundry. And I think that's basically it. And then you want to publish, just publish, and then you will be able to uh, open in Teams and in other tools. Okay. So how about a 10 minutes break? You want a break? 10 minutes? Right. 10 minutes. Let me set the timer so you can grab a cup of coffee and I'll see you in 10. Thank you, everyone. I'm having a great time. All right. Okay, so let's get started again with custom tools in your agent, right? Um, when when we had this demo where we use the web search and then we use the vector index or the vector files, these were tools that are not custom tools, right? Because basically web search is just go ahead and get information from the web. The other one is we have a set of files. You can find information there and just return that information based on the prompt. But if you want to make an agent that is more useful, and then you can create your own custom tools. And you can do that with code, or you can use Azure functions, and you have many different uh, options to create these specific tools for your agent. Like I said, you can create your code, or you can go ahead and use Azure functions, logic apps, and or integrate some other API, so some other systems that uh, have an API available. Okay, with that, for instance, logic apps is basically very similar to Power Automate. So you can create a flow and Power Automate, and then the Azure functions, then you need to add code. If you are a Power Automate developer, probably it's easier to go ahead and create an Azure Logic app. You set the trigger, and then you get the parameters, and then you return information. You can send emails. You can do a lot of things with this. Same for Azure functions, but the difference is it's store or publish in Azure, but it's with code. And then you can also create your own code, your custom functions, and integrate into your your agent. So that's the next demo we will see. Okay, let me show you this custom uh, tool or custom agent. Let me look for it. It's Where is this? Here it is. Okay, so let's think about this agent. Okay, where basically this agent it's the same. We have an LLM. We have the GPT-4 as we did before. We have the endpoint, and then what we have here is this is one of the most important part of the calls. You have a functions file where you have different methods in the code. So if we take a look at these functions, you have different functions. Like you have load events, that is basically pulling data from an events txt file. It's basically opening the file and splitting the information and then returning the information. And then you can take a look at load rates, that is pulling data from telescope rates. It's basically Python code doing some specific task. Next visible event is pretty much the same. I think it's looking for a file and then returning information from that file. Okay, so it's three different functions created in Python, and basically what you need to do here is you need to import that file with those three functions here. Now it's not just that. You just need to obviously. I don't need this. Okay, you need to define a function call, and in this case, you can map what the user wants to do, next visible event, calculate observation cost, and then you can automatically send the arguments. You don't need to map every single parameter here, just send the arguments automatically. And here is where you define the different methods, right? You have create agent response, and here you have the definition of the functions. Here you can call the function. It's based on whatever function is needed, and here you send the response to the agent. Okay, when you create the function tool, you define you don't need to create the specific parameter. You just define the description. You set the name. Very important is the description, what that function does. Okay, get the next visible event in a given location. Okay, then you define the parameters. It's basically the description, yeah, and you set some examples, North America, Australia. So when the user sends a prompt, it's basically map here and found what is the best function to be called. Like, hey, do you want to calculate observation cost? This is the description for that. You need to send the telescope tier, how many hours they need, and then it will return parameters. So what we are doing here is we first created the functions with Python code, and that is all the logic you need. Probably you want to connect to a web service, you want to write the file. Actually, I think one of the functions writes a file. I think it's this one, generate observation report. It's basically creating a report, setting a format, and then writing the file. This is the format of the report with the parameters, and then it's just saving that information into this specific file. What you're doing in the agent is just mapping those functions to do what the user wants to do. And here is the same as we start with the other agents. connect to the project endpoint, the model deployment name, create the credentials, set the tools, and then when you send the request, you will be able to add the tools. What are the tools? From definition, the instructions, and here are the tools. So, like we did with the web search and the file search, we are doing the same. What is the difference? The difference is, in this case, we created the code, we created 3 functions, and then we said, we created those rules here. If the user asks for both event information and cost, call both required tools. Both required tools. If the user asks to generate a report, then get those parameters and call this specific function, okay? And then it's basically calling the different methods. And if we run this agent, 1 second, let's run it. So we send that here, and here we run the agent Python, the agent.py. And when you run this agent, and when you say, hey, can you give me, I don't know, a specific event? 1 second. Okay, 1 second, because this is a very, very specific prompt we need. Okay. So we want to send this prompt, right? Find me the next event I can see from South America. And give me the cost for the event South America. So it will be one of the parameters. It will automatically pull South America 5 hours, and then the premium telescope at a normal priority. That's taken automatically from the prompt, and it's calling the specific function that will get the event and will get the cost. And then you will get, okay, the next astronomical event you can observe from South America is Saturn-Mars conjunction, July 10th. The cost for 5 hours of premium telescope is this, right? Here, like I said, it's basically a function created with Python, but that function is basically calling information from a text file, but it could be calling a web service, or it could be calling an API from from a third-party system, right? When you do that, then you could see something like, hey, okay, I want to create a report. Yep, after I get the information, you could say, okay, generate that information in a report, and then a different function will be called. Once you call this, okay, it will create, and then you get the report. It's basically here. Okay, the session report, date, server, what event, when is the next event visible, the information about the price for the telescope, and the cost summary. It's a different function called automatically based on the user request. And I think the same, or the important thing here is not only the code and the definition, but the instructions. The instructions are really, really important. Hey, when the user asks this, then go to this tool. When the user asks for the report, go to this other tool. And that's important. Oh, do not invent cost. Use the cost tool. Okay, and that is important because if for some reason the agent doesn't find a price for a specific, like, hey, I want a telescope at a high performance, very, very special requirement, and some other specification, then if the tool doesn't find that price, it will try to invent a price. Oh, It's not 1800, it's 2700. Because remember, sometimes the AI will try to fill the gaps or fill in the blanks, right? What that means is these instructions say, hey, if you don't find any information, just tell that to the user. And I think this is really important. And it's the same for if you're using Copilot in 365 or you're using Copilot Studio. These instructions are really, really important. Okay. Okay. So this is a different tool, a custom tool. The others were tools that are available, are pre-built as part of the model. You can just say, hey, I want web search or I want to use file search, and that will work. Now, we can also use different models or different models to extract insights from information. Okay, so we created an agent, and now we want to process or use computer vision and information extraction. Okay, when you do this, basically you can develop a vision enabled application. Okay, where you probably want to upload a file, a picture, and then you want to describe the picture, or you want to identify objects in the picture. You want to find a person, you want to find a computer. That's what you can do with vision-enabled applications or models. Like I showed you before, you can just go ahead here, upload a file, and then ask for information, okay? Like, hey, tell me, tell me where this fruit grows, in which countries, right? So we're basically asking for information about the mango, and you have a list of different uh, information based on the LLM. Okay, so it understands that it's the picture is mango, and then you can ask for information, right? But in this case, we're using an LLM. Okay, sometimes it's not a good idea to use an LLM to process images. Why? Because it could be expensive, or you can have more specialized models. Okay, it works. Yes, it works. Is the best? Probably not. So make sure that you look for the best model for every single task. Okay. Yeah, and it's the same. You have chat completion API, or you can use responses. Remember, with responses, it's easier because you don't need to be sending the picture over and over again. You have the last message ID, and then you can keep the conversation going. Okay, so you can also use models like I showed you to create images. And video. All you need to do is look for the specific model. I created the Flux 2. As probably this slide is not updated, but when I show you that, I basically went to models. I have my Flux 2 Pro, and I created the prompt. Create developer pulling her or his hair because the code is not working. So this is a different model where we are sending basically a prompt, okay? And it should return that specific image, okay? And then you can use the code. You have always the code here to send an HTTP request if you want, or you can use the SDK. It's better if you can use the SDK, but if you are using a programming language that where you don't have an SDK available, you can always use HTTP request, and it works. Okay. Like I said, it's all about sending the request. You send the model, you send the prompt, you create the OpenAI client. You send the model, the prompt, the size, and then you get the information in the bytes, and you can decode that so you can display that. And it's pretty much the same for video generating models, right? You can just send a request. I think Sora, I'm not sure if Sora is still available. I don't have Sora anymore in ChatGPT. So probably Sora is not available because it changes a lot. Sometimes you're using a model and then okay, we're not supporting this model anymore, then you can use this other model. So be careful with that, and you can just it. Okay, now you can use another part of AI, another service in Azure AI Foundry named Content Understanding. I think this is really, really cool, but because it's not only for images. It's also for actually for speech and for videos. Content understanding. You can create the models, or you can deploy these models, and you can work with a speech, right? And I will show you how. So when you have content understanding, you have multimodal content analysis. You could upload a video, you could upload an audio, and actually one of the most important parts here is that you create the schema for the information. Okay, so if you are processing voicemail messages and then you want to pull who called, where you want to call back, what did they say, what company did they call from. You can create a specific model for that, or you can process, say, uh, meetings, and then you recorded the meeting, and then you have a video, and then you want to process that meeting, like who attended the meeting, what did they say, what actions we agreed to take after the meeting, which slides were presented. You can create your own model, you can customize it, and it will work. You just need to use the endpoint, send the file, the URL or the base64 encoded file, and it will process that. So what you want to do is you want to use content understanding. And here, what you need to do here is you need to go to your project here, AI services. Is not, you have models, AI services, content understanding. You can upload a file here, but I'm gonna go and customize in Content Understanding Studio. I think it's better. And here, you can go to your project, and then you can say, hey, I want to process voice voice message, right? So you create the schema for the data. Actually, I did this before because Sometimes, sometimes I get lost. When I try to go to a menu or a link, suddenly the option is not there. So yesterday I was looking where did they move this to? So it's here. And what I did here is basically I created the fields, right? Like, hey, when I process a phone call, oh, you don't need to create a lot. I think you need to create the right tools, right? So you don't need to go to a lot of different places. You need to focus on solving a problem, okay? Say you want to process the voice messages. Then forget about LLMs. Go to content understanding. Create this schema. Like I say, hey, phone to return the call, person who called, summary, action to take, the company. And then with that, you can run this and upload the file. I don't know if you can hear it.
Just calling to follow up on our meeting last week.
Okay, so I have this voicemail in empty MP3 format. And with this model, I can run the analysis. So it will analyze the speech, the message, and it will pull the fields that I created. Who called? Where should I call back? What is the summary of the message? Right? And then you can create the analyzer. So here, it creates the transcript for you. Hey, this is Ava from Contoso. I'm calling to follow up on our meeting. Call me back at this number, and so on. And here you get the phone number to call, who called, the summary, action to take, Contoso. This is the company. And if you take a look here, you can find the result. Obviously, this is basically JSON, a JSON format. And then you can just create the analyzer. You build the analyzer here, voice, mail, analyzer. Just add the description. You can build it, and then you can test it. You can just upload a different uh, message, like, hey, let me go to test it. Let me see. Here I should have these trainings, information extraction, demos, content. I have a different call, and then I can run the test. And this is a different call from different person about a different subject, different number. And here I have this. Hey, this is Davis. Just to let you know that your car is fully serviced, call me, or you can just come to the service center, pick up your keys at reception. Here, I'm getting all this information, and I could store this information in the in a SQL Server database and send message or run a Power Automate flow or do whatever I want, right? Basically, because this is content understanding. And if you want to take a look at the code, just click for the code, go here, and you will have the code. Just add the content understanding key. So right here, all right. That's right. When you created, when I created this code, this schema, basically when the model is running, it's pulling that data, creating the result in a JSON format, and then we can process that and grab the information. And this works not only for audio, it works for video, okay? It works for invoices in PDF. You can create an structure for the invoice. Actually, there are some models, sorry, that are pre-built in your in the Foundry. You don't need to create everything from scratch, right? So, but in this case, I think it was important to create. Actually, you can use a business card analyzer and extract information from a business card, right? Okay, so that's content understanding. You can analyze actually images. You can grab the description instead of uploading an audio. You can upload a picture, set the description. You could create actually a field name object, and then instead of using actually, this works. Image tag, list of strings. So probably it would say an elephant. If you have a tiger here, it would say that because this is a list of strings, and it will say, okay, here is an elephant. This is a tiger. This is any other tool. Okay, and then you have the results, like I show you. You have the results as a JSON object that you can process, and then you can store this somewhere else, SQL Server, Cosmos DB, whatever you need, okay? Okay, so that's, you can also develop a vision-enabled chat application, okay? And it's pretty much the same, right? So if you have this image application, and this is different, okay? This is different. Because here I'm using the same model, GPT-4. I'm not using content understanding. I'm using the general GPT model. And here, what I'm doing is I have this image chat here. And what this is doing is basically getting the information, the connection settings, and then setting the system message. You are an AI assistant for a grocery store that sells fruits. You provide detailed answers to questions about products, right? Uh, Good. And then it's basically saying, okay, ask a question about the image, enter a question. If I don't send an image, it will grab an orange that is in a URL. And then I can ask a question. So if I click here, second, let me quit here, quit, and let's run this one, image chat. Open integrated. Oh, let's run this Python image chat. There, go ahead. It will ask me, okay, what recipes be created with this fruit? Take a look. When I send the request, I set the model GPT-4, and then I set the image URL. So I'm uploading this and sending the prompt, and it's returning these recipes with orange because that's basically the orange. I'm using here a general model, a GPT-4 model, and I'm sending the file and say, hey, tell me about this file. Okay, and then you can use as a vision-enabled chat. Okay. Okay. Like I said, content understanding is pretty much about creating different models and then processing that information. It could be about you could create model for PDF, for videos, for audios, and all you need to do is create this analyzer. There are many pre-built analyzers. So if you have a business card, you don't need to create your custom model, your custom analyzer. It already exists for you. You just need to create it. Or if you want to process invoices, at least uh, invoices in the US, you have already a model. Probably if you want to process an invoice in Mexico, the model is different, or any other country, the model is different, then probably you need to create your own analyzer. Like I show you, you can process audio. Just make sure that you create the schema, okay? This is important. What information you want to extract from the audio, from the video, and that's all you need. Like I said, video is also possible. If you are analyzing I don't know, probably a meeting. You can create a table or a list of arrays, a list of strings with the attendees, and that will give you that list. If you want to create the name of the slides, you can create list of slides as a list, and that will give you, okay, the first slide was about Foundry. The second slide was about content understanding, and that you will get that information from it. And like I said, you need to do that in the content understanding studio. That is a different. Yeah. You can train your own model like I did. Like when I went here, actually I could say, hey, I want a different I can go to my project. Say, you're right. So I could say, hey, I want another one. I don't want this. You can change a template and say, hey, I want to use a different file, and then you will be able to create. Let's say here, extract information or custom, okay, create, and then here you can upload a meeting. And then I have the video. All I need to do is create the schema here. Once the file is uploaded, I will be able to start creating the schema, like here. Oh, no, I don't want that. Video analysis from scratch, save. And then I can I have the video and I can say, hey, I want a new field name, attendees. Attendees. That is a list of strings. I want a summary. That's a string. I want important. Add the description that attended. Summary of the meeting. Presentation slides. And this is a list of strings. Title of the slides presented. And then once you have that, you save it, and then just run the analysis, and you just see the information there. So I think this is really cool, and you can create a lot of different solutions. So once you have that, you just click Build Analyzer, and then you will have the endpoint, the key, and the sample code that you can pull and just start using it. So it's running the analysis. Let's see if that works. It should. Let's give it a minute because okay. So that's video processing specifically for meetings. Once it finishes, you can just build the analyzer. Let's give it a minute. Let me go back. So yeah, like I said, once you're done, you can get the endpoint and the API key. Actually, you can get that from the Azure portal, but you don't need to go to the Azure portal to get that. Take a look. Ava, Jenny, Mats, virtual meeting to coordinate preparations for an upcoming, and they only presented one slide. So if we take a look here, there's Max and product launch collateral. That's basically what you can do. You could add another field like, hey, what are the actions that will be taken by every attendee? And then they will say, okay, this person say that they will get, I don't know, they will get the demos or they will schedule the next meeting, and that's how it will work. Okay, important, you can define your schema and create the analyzer. Actually, you can do that with code. It's possible. And and then you can analyze the content. So let me show you this other sample here. What is it? This is search up, image shots. What is it? This is the tools API, not this one. Should be this one. Oh, this one. Okay, so I'm not gonna run this. I already showed you how it works. But basically here, what we are doing here is we are open a BizCard JSON, and we are using the endpoint. We have this endpoint for cognitive services, the analyzer name, the key, and then what we are doing here is we are loading this file. What is BizCard JSON? It's basically the configuration to create a new schema, right? So if I run this, it will create a new schema. And then when I call the create analyzer, it's basically sending the create analyzer, sending the JSON, and then running a method begin create analyzer. So you don't need to go to Content Understanding Studio to create your schema like I did. You could actually create by code, like here. And then once you create the analyzer, you can use the card, read the card. So here I have the business card one. Let me see if I can open it. Like this is the business card one, business card two, and I can run this code. I think the analyzer is already created. So let me just run this one. So it should be Python read card, and it reads by default the first one. So if someone gave you a business card, it will process that and pull the information. Like, okay, the company is Adventure Works, the name, title. And if I run the same, but with the business card two, that's the other one. And this is the other one, Mari Duarte's customer advisor, and it will pull the information, right? Company, and it's all in JSON. Oh, you cannot deploy when you cannot deploy the analyzers directly to Copilot, you should create a tool, and that tool add to your agent, right? Because basically this is an API uh, that is being used. So I would not recommend to try to connect directly, but rather than that, create a custom function. So what I would do, remember the previous demo, the tools, where we had the functions. I'm not sure if that's this agent. Remember that we had these functions file, so you could create a function here in this file, and then export that as a tool for your agent. So, but not directly. Okay. Is there a class for Content Understanding Studio? Yes. There is an applied skill that is basically a class, one-day class of all these content understanding. And basically, I took some of the demos from that class, but that's definitely okay. So I think those, can we train them, customize? Yes, you can train and customize your own analyzers. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's basically how content understanding works, right? And that's this specific demo. Okay, so I really like all these features. Like I said, there are a lot of different models. Probably you will never learn about every single model, but I think the takeaway is two takeaways is I know Azure Foundry. I know I have a lot of models there. I can find a model based on the task I want to do. I can use an LLM. I can go ahead and go to content understanding. And every single service or model I deploy, I can either use it directly in the playground in Azure AI Foundry, or I can create my own code, either by using the SDKs or by uh, sending HTTP requests. That's also possible. So it's easier for me if I'm a Python developer or C# developer, because we have SDKs already there created for us. But if I use any other language and I have access to send HTTP requests, posts, gets, all that, you will be able to use all the services that you are creating, if that makes sense. Okay, good. Last part of this training, and this is another great tool that you can integrate in your solution. Okay, we created in a previous demo, we created a vector store from the brochures for our travel agency. Now, imagine that they don't have 5 destinations, they have hundreds of destinations. Then Creating those vectors when running the agent, that will take minutes, hours, I don't know. And that's not the best option. Then you have Azure AI Search. Azure AI Search is basically this service that will create vector indexes that will be available for different tools. You can use these vector indexes in Copilot Studio to use as knowledge, or you can use in your agent created with Python or C Sharp. And what you need to do is you need to go ahead and navigate in the Azure portal and look for Azure AI Search. Previously, you need to know where the information is going to be. If you create here, you set the name. Obviously, you have some you can test it for free. Actually, you have a free tier, and then you create this. And when you create this, you will be a what am I missing? Okay, my search service. When you create this, oh, now what? Oh, 527. There you go. So when you create this service, it will take a few minutes, and then you need to configure your data, right? Well, never mind. Let me go ahead and look for the one I created. So I created here. You click import data, and then you have all these data sources. Actually, you can use an Azure Blob Storage, upload PDF there. You can look for a SQL Server database, OneDrive. You have Azure Cosmos DB, SharePoint. You have many different sources, right? With that, after you create it, then you create the index. And the index is basically where you define which information you want. If I click here in Edit JSON, you will see that I can have the title of the document, the key phrases of the content. It can identify person, locations, organizations. You can get all this information out of these databases or files, whatever, right? All those data sources are available. You can actually you can do in different ways. Okay. The first one is use SQL Server create Azure AI Service, and then create an index for your database. And then the agent will connect to the Azure search to perform semantic searches. That's one way. Okay. From SQL to Azure AI Search, and then the agent pulling the data from the AI Search. But the other way is you can create a model, a vector model, and then from SQL Server, use that model. And when you send specific queries inside the database, you can create the vector indexes in your tables, and then you can start using inside SQL Server. You don't need Azure AI Search there, right? No, the index creation, it depends. If it's a static data, you don't need to re-index, but you can actually create indexers. The indexer could be scheduled to run once or daily or what. I don't have a repository for GitHub, but actually, I think this code is available and directly on Microsoft Learn. 1 second, let me take a look. 1 sec. I think there is. 1 sec. There you go. When you attend these trainings, and actually, if you decide, hey, I want to take the full course, like I don't remember, it's 3 days, and you always have access to the GitHub, right? And GitHub, you have the code. Okay, so yeah, in Microsoft Learn, you have access. What is the difference? The advantage when you take a training is that you have your virtual machine. We deliver the demos, we deliver the presentation, and then you take time to do the lab. And then we move to the next model. We explain the concepts, and then you have time to do the lab. That's the advantage of taking the trainings, right? Where you have time to learn from the trainer, and then you have your virtual machine with everything ready. You don't need to create your Azure account, because when you attend these trainings, you have your virtual machine with an account just ready to start working on the labs. That's the difference. I mean, you can find the code there; it's available. But yeah, uh, spend a few days with us learning. Okay, so like I was saying, you can schedule the indexer to run uh, over and over again and at specific times. And then once you have this, you can actually go ahead here and in the indexes, you can test it. Actually, you can go here to the index and say, hey, tell me about New York. Because basically this is and then it will say, okay, I found information here. And then you will see, oh, you have the caption, New York City. Margie's Travel present New York City. And then you get the key phrases, New York City, New York hotels, and then you get a lot of different information based on these vector indexes. This is basically what this is doing. When you upload the files or you add your database, it's creating these indexes, right? And like I said, it's basically creating indexes for different data sources like files, databases, SharePoint folders, all this kind of information. And then it's basically adding different data to enrich the index, like the file name, like the author. If that's a PDF, you can get the author name, all that information. And once you process that, the indexer would run the index. Like I said, you can schedule this and you can extract different information. If that's a file, you will get the file name, the date, the size, and you can actually filter by those fields. Okay, you can this is great. You can add AI skills, right? I like this. We don't have time to show you all the features, but this one is great. So imagine you have contracts. You work for an insurance company. You want to you have the different documents, and then you want to protect the personal information. You don't want to say, hey, Juan, this document is from Juan Vasquez, and the address is 123 Main Street, and all that information. You can add AI skills. You can add an additional model and say, okay, so you're going to create the index, but you're going to use this skill to remove personal identifiable information. And when we use the index and say, hey, give me this document that contains the word Mexico. Oh, that will return the document or the information, but it will remove my name or my phone number or my address because I added an additional skill. So it's not about just like, okay, here you go. You have all this information. Feel free to return all information to the application. No, you can add additional skills. And then you can add searches. You can start adding search, like if it was SQL Server, okay, look for New York, but only bring me title, location, key phrases, filter by author, and order by metadata storage date or metadata storage size, and it will filter. So you can run these specific queries, and basically, when you create the index, it's really important that you understand that the indexes are created in Azure storage. So if you upload a file that has pictures on it and you want to index the pictures, it will create a folder in an Azure storage, and it will extract the pictures. Okay. If you want to, it create tables in Azure storage to create that index. Okay. Well, you have a lot of documents. If you just look for Azure AI search, uh, you can find all these documents where you can actually get those details, right? Because it changes really often, right? Like these skills did not exist, so basically you need to keep updated based on the new changes. So how do we create an application that uses this AI search? Oh, I have this, what is it? Search app. Okay, so I have my environment. You have a search endpoint. It's the same. When you have a model, you have an endpoint. When you have a project, you have an endpoint. When you have an AI search service, you have an endpoint. You have the index name, and then you have the query key. Okay. Actually, you have a key for managing. If you want to run the index, you have another key so you can run manual by code the indexer. You can do that. Then you can click here, and then as you can see here, you create a search client. Obviously, you have a specific SDK name, Azure Search Documents. Then you want the search client. You set the query key, you set the endpoint, the index, and then you can start sending requests like search client, search, and get me the ID, the title, the location, the person, the key phrases, the organization. Order by ID, include the total count. So if we run this program here, then we can say, hey, sir, Python search app, and it will ask me, hey, what do you want to learn? Tell me about Dubai. And it's using the endpoint, searching on the index, and it's basically saying, okay, I found two documents. The first one is the Dubai brochure, where I found locations, Dubai, Arab Emirates, Southeast Coast, Persian Gulf, because that's part of the brochure, right? People, it could not find the people, right? If you have politicians' name on the document, you will get the names. If you have, I don't know, probably athletes, you will get the name there based on that document. And then you have organization. Okay, I found Margis Travel, Federal Supreme Council, and then I have a lot of different key phrases. Okay. And then the second document it found, that's the general document where it found the word Dubai, all the locations, Las Vegas, London, because this is a general document, right? And then we have the key phrases, organizations, and all that information. If I look for London, what's the same? It will get me probably another two documents, but this time is the London brochure. Okay, so what you have is different indexes and then you have the endpoint. Someone asked earlier today, can we have different data sources? Definitely. You can go ahead here to your uh, Azure Search Service and then add another index. And then you can create or connect to a different source. Okay, so if you go here, overview, you can import more data. Okay, I added the PDF files. Now I want the SQL Server database, right? So that's what you can do with this service. I really like it. Remember, when you have